I am war. Help me kill. All you have to do is do nothing.
This is Revolution Podcast, and it's not Give Them an Argument today because it wasn't on the list of sites I could stream to. I don't know if this is because of a Jason accident. But today, I'm joined by Kuba and Quinn, and we're going to be discussing some revolutions on This is Revolution Podcast. We're going to be going through a lot of revolutions. We did some revolutions last week. We're going to do them again on a slightly different basis and hopefully get to some more. Hopefully we'll be enlivened by our visual format. We're going to use an actual tier maker list to do this tier list because of their enduring and deep popularity through all different parts of the internet. And perhaps for once, you want to see something other than our faces. I'm not sure why that would be the case. My suggestion to Kuba and Quinn before we begin the show is we take our we take our leftist biases out and instead put in a different set of kind of like more secondary biases of our interpretation of history. And instead of assessing these revolutions and being like, well, I liked it in 1917 when they did socialism, we would instead rate these revolutions based on how successful they were on their own terms, which gives us a reason to then not just place all the socialist revolutions above the liberal revolutions, and also so we don't like kind of just rate big country revolutions inherently over small country revolutions. So I think, for instance, Cuba, the Cuban Revolution, will be very high up on this list, despite the fact that it didn't. It's probably less important. Like it might end up higher, depending on how we assess things. It might end up higher than November 17 Russian Revolution, even though November 17 Russian Revolution is obviously much, much more important in history. And there's lots of... I didn't create this list. I stole this list. I thought it was fine. And I liked the idea of not using a list I had made. So there's also like a creative antagonistic element with this list. And this list has a lot of shite on it. A lot of stuff that I'm not going to ask my lovely co-host to comment on, especially because we've covered it some already. Look at all these images. What is... I don't know what the best kind of zoom is. Is this a good zoom? I guess the question is...
Obviously, it's just the Confederate battle flag forever.
The problem...
Well, you got the Lone Star, the Texas Revolution. It's barely a real revolution, but okay.
The problem is I don't know can I drag the French Revolution? I can't like force the screen to go up, so I have to do this very awkward thing of doing this.
Can you like
scrolling back down again?
Can we crop the view?
What do you mean, like on the website or?
Like you have it up on your own screen, but have like the blown up section just be the tier list itself?
No, or not easily. I know what you mean. Like, I think I would have to have... it doesn't really work because they have to both, like, one has to be operated on by the other, you know? Like, I could create two tabs where one you see the images and one you see the moving thing, but then I think it would just be reducing real estate. So it's fine. I can just do it in a couple of maneuvers, and I'll zoom in a moderate level. Okay, I've put actually, what I can do is just put them all at one at first, then we discuss them. Like, this is our object du jour, and then we only move things down. Well, I mean, presumably one will not get...
Well, yes, down. As good socialists, we believe in equality, and at the highest possible level, and then we demote people, possibly to Siberia.
I actually do think in this case, I would leave this revolution as the one that stays at the top. It was obviously not said by a famous Chinese man that it's too early to tell the results of the French Revolution. But my more impetuous English mind is of the view that we can tell what the results of the French Revolution were. We know what the results were, and the results were a complete destruction globally of the feudal system. In the immediate aftermath of the French Revolution, the kind of destruction of the European feudal system, the ripping out of the heart of the European feudal system outside areas such as Hungary and Russia and so on, which did not have the kind and noble gaze of Bonaparte forced upon them.
Also, rationalization and scientific reason being first formalized in France and then internationally, globally.
Yes, if you are glad to not have to deal in sixpence and shillings, thank Bonaparte. And yes, and I think also because the initial aims of the revolution were not particularly high. It's not really clear, obviously, who had views when. Like, it was not, the French Revolution was not like a Leninist revolution in the fact that they had like a clear plan. You know, and even less than, like, say, the American Revolution, where the demand was, okay, we're going to become a separate country. The French Revolution was like a rolling thing. But I would say the first kind of revolution in France were not planning on conquering Europe and imposing liberalism, apart from maybe out of a few fringe elements. Red Droga said it's very funny to see a Brit say the kind of noble gaze of Bonaparte. You know, I think the wrong side won at Waterloo, and that's life. Do you guys agree with my number one placing for the French Revolution?
The only possible argument to make against that would be to say that the goals of the Montaigne and the radical Jacobins were so radical that by that standard, it would only be a B. But I think we have to calibrate for French arrogance and overreach, so it stays at a 1.
I think I would bump it down just to S tier, just because I think that there are so many different, like, you know, factions that all kind of have their own different goals for the revolution, and I think that, like, I think it's fair to say on the whole the revolution was fairly successful, but maybe, you know, to allow for, you know, people to have their eccentricities and particularities, maybe maybe it's okay to let bump it down a little bit.
Well, the settings are not in stone, so I would suggest that we keep it at number 1 for now. But when Quinn makes a good argument for something going above it, we can put it there.
All right.
Next up is Chilean War of Independence, which I'm going to take as a proxy for all of the revolutions in the Spanish Americas. Obviously, we discussed this one last week, and it's an interesting one because it obviously succeeded in the becoming of independence of Spain, and unlike, say, the Irish Revolution, which we might talk about later, the Spanish Americas did not then become like semi-economic peripheries of Quinn's been killed, sadly. The Spanish Americas did not become like a semi-periphery of Spain. They did not become colonies by economic exploitation rather than just political colonies. That did not happen. They became truly independent. But how well did they do with their independence? Not terribly well, especially the kind of liberal Republican part. Of course, they never re-crowned kings or anything like this, but they very often ended up with like democracies that were not particularly stable or Republican, and often fell to military dictatorships. And this is far before any intervention from the West. They also from the American Republic, and then they also spent a lot of time killing each other, especially the South American bits. Cuba, do you have any thoughts on the Spanish Revolution, Spanish American Revolution?
So yes, I point out that unlike the French Revolution, it didn't do. Latin American feudalism was distinct, was of a different kind of nature than the feudalism of Europe, and basically depending on the extent of indigenous peon repression, you had varying levels of success towards this bourgeois liberalism. Argentina arguably being the most successful case going all the way. I don't even know if that qualifies as part of the Bolivarian set, right? Isn't that a different process? But when you look at Colombia versus Peru versus Ecuador versus Venezuela, right? There's clearly some differentiation there, and none of them achieve their stated endpoint. So part of that has to do with baleful external actors, but a lot of that, let's face it, is just the local liberal bourgeois elites not really being fit for purpose. No Meiji oligarchs, them. So C.
Yeah, C. I was probably going to say B, but I can put it in C. We can get Quinn's opinion when he delightfully and magically returns to us.
I mean, I feel like C should be a marginal pass, and then below that, we're talking about degrees of failure.
I would go next to... Why is this not... it's kind of in order, but not. The American Revolution. Let's go for the American Revolution. My tendency is to give this a very high rating in terms of succeeding on its own terms. I guess the kind of problem it had was not... I guess maybe there was I don't know if they aimed to take over all of British North America. But I'd say the much more significant failure of the American Revolution, to the degree this can be called a failure, was failing to kind of resolve its internal contradictions. Hello, Quinn. You're on the screen again.
Hello.
Was failing to resolve its internal contradictions around slavery, and failing to kind of, at least initially, kind of actually get its constitution in order. Like the Bill of Rights is fundamental to what America is, but it didn't actually come in until 1792. I don't know. Quinn, you're an American.
I have to look it up, but that sounds right. 1791.
1791. So these things were not actually written in stone, and there were from Hamilton or whatever. There was a tendency between Americans who wanted to do something different, American revolutionaries who wanted to make England too, up until include having a monarch. And they did manage to find, in a very Roman sense, a president that was completely uninterested in being the president, in George Washington. But I think without this initial foundation and kind of the strong Republican virtues that were held in certain American revolutionary men at the time, I think the revolution could have fallen apart after the revolution, as opposed to what actually happened, where I think actually the American Revolution was probably the most sustainable revolution that's ever happened.
Arguably, too, even with the question of slavery, right? The Civil War is an internal corrective. Right?
Yeah.
That was then complicated by Jim Crow, of course, right, and the failure of Reconstruction. But let's face it, even embarking on Reconstruction is a mark of success within the framework of the model. It's hard for me to give it anything less than an S on its own terms, right? This close to Canada Day, Victoria Day, Dominion Day, Arbor Day, it pains the heart, but we must remain objective.
But that shows it being good. If it does inflict upon your Canadian pride, then it just means it should be higher on the rating, right?
Mm-hmm.
Quinn?
Yeah, I think it's got to be S tier. On its own terms, it won on every metric it cared about.
It even managed to convince the French to do a bunch of the heavy lifting and then politely show them the door at the end, which, That's a pretty deft move there, Ben Franks.
Yeah, then managed to stay out of like the Napoleonic project.
Mhm.
They did not say thank you in the Ukrainian tradition. Quinn, we also put the Spanish-American revolutions at C.
Yeah,
Do you
no,
agree with
I was
C?
listening. I was just
Okay.
adjusting something that let's see. Let me see if I
Came
can
down to, so
switch
why not give
this.
South Africa an S? If there was like some kind of Boer revolution, which succeeded and then like made a sustainable Boer republic for like 300
I mean, there
years
was
or
a
something.
Boer War, but that's the argument is like, is it a D or an E, right?
Yeah.
And then there's
And
the
also
end of
like
apartheid.
yeah, but
That is worth debating.
like if we put up, I can't remember when the South African constitution changed to basically make it a racist Boer republic, but it was like the 1950s. If we had that up here, it would be like a D or an E or something. But that's because it fell apart 40 years later.
I don't know. I think that gets you to at least a C. For 40
Okay.
years of white supremacist extraction, giving the world Elon Musk, that gets you over the line.
Fair. Yeah, I guess it's like 2 generations. Should we do let's do the Greek Revolution, because I think Greek Revolution is important for kind of like nationalism in Europe, and it can be used as a type of like a stand-in for like the Bulgarian revolt and the Serbian revolt and so on and so forth.
Do you want to try putting my camera up centered? I think I've got a setup where I can drag him in.
Ooh, we thought it was trouble, but it was solutions.
I mean, it's a silly setup, but I've got my I've got my main monitor on its side, so I can have like this at the upper part of the screen and have it all showing, but then I have OBS cropping it down. This is maybe a silly thing to do, but it worked.
This would be a good solution if it wasn't for the fact that StreamYard doesn't have an option so that like this image, like of course I could do what you're doing, but I'm not doing that live. If I could do what you were doing, then we could make this work. But the problem is I can't, there's no option for me to turn this big screen here to like a screen that's relative to the size as ours and do like, oh shit, whoops. Like we did this, and then I could replace myself with that, or have it as a fourth screen here. That would be good. But there's no option to have like you can have it like that. But there's no option to have it like a decent size. It's either not on the screen, it's that, or it's that.
That's not ideal.
But I appreciate your efforts, Quinn.
Yeah, all right, whatever.
You can have your lovely face back instead, which is not so tragic. So yes, like the Greek Revolution, it's good. I think it succeeded on its own terms. It didn't kind of succeed in its kind of more absurd terms that we discussed last week, or the fact that it didn't manage to raise the Greek peasantry up to being ancient Greek speaking poets. So maybe it's a fail on that. But in terms of, you know, starting the downfall of the Ottoman Empire, of course, like the Greek Revolution itself did not. I think kind of the most important thing the Greek Revolution set up was it was the start of when Western powers and Russia started going to the Ottoman Empire. Like, we're going to choose reasonably because we want you to keep struggling on and existing. But we're going to choose and demand and force you to give a little bit more to the Greeks or the Serbs or the Bulgarians, then give a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more until, the carcass finally fell apart in 1914. Well, I guess the carcass didn't fall apart in 1914, but it was well on its way. So yeah, I think the Greek Revolution I would give a B. Greek independence was never then again threatened. Greek went through like monarch to republic to monarch to republic, but I don't think that's particularly like the Greek revolutionaries weren't trying to set up Funnily enough, they did a lot less LARPing than the Americans did, even though they were in a much better position to LARP. They didn't try and LARP as the Byzantines. They didn't try and LARP as Athens. They were like, we're going to just
To the disappointment of Byron, right? Like, they were encouraged to go down that route.
Yeah, everyone wanted them to LARP, I think. And they were like, no, we're just going to set up a moderately shitty European state, and they did.
No, we're just gonna
be for me.
We're just gonna be Balkan, but also resent anybody who points that out.
Do you know the there's a Zizek joke about where the Balkans starts?
Yeah.
What's the joke?
We should loudly say the key word in it.
No, so I'm thinking of the other one, which is that like where you draw the line.
Oh, right. I can't remember that one exactly.
Where it's like, oh, you know, if you asked an Austrian, it's Slovenia. That's really where it starts. If you asked a Slovak, yeah, it's to the south. Croatian, oh yeah, no, right on our southern border. That's where it starts. But then, you know, you go over Serbia. Yeah, no, really Balkans are to the east. Or if you go down enough, like Greece, Albania, Macedonia. No. Balkans are to the north.
The Balkans end up being that one disputed island in the Danube between Serbia and Hungary.
My favorite is the end of the bit where he's like, you know, then you go to Germany. Oh yeah, everywhere south of us is Balkan. Netherlands. Oh, everywhere to the south and east is basically all Balkans. And then when you get to the good old United Kingdom, all of Europe, it is all one Balkan.
The Wogs start at Calais.
At that point, it's Balkans singular, right? Because it's all of it.
Yeah, B for me. What are you guys saying on the Greeks?
I mean, you know more about the Greek Revolution than I do. I'll defer to your judgment.
Yeah, I mean, my inclination is C because they didn't do particularly well in the string of wars that followed. But you make a strong case, and if I think about the standard that I laid down for the Latin American marginal pass, the Greeks did do a notch, you know, a unit, a quantum better than that. So fine, they get a B.
We'll put them at weak B, and they could possibly get downgraded to just a strong C later on, depending on what the competition looks like. Not doing any of those. Fuck the Belgian Revolution. Definitely not talking about that. I think, well, I'll go straight to
the Belgian Revolution might actually be an S on its own terms because the Belgians like to dream small.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's just that dull. It's just incredibly dull.
Yeah.
I think an interesting one is 1848. Because it is difficult to kind of assess what, like, was the revolution of 1488 actually made real by the revolution in like 1918 in Germany? Was it made real like 70 years later, or is that too much bullshit and should be regarded as like a, because, you know, for any revolution which failed, unless it like really directly inspired stuff, I want to give it a straight F.
I think that we can't be like, oh yeah, that's like saying, you know, because of the current run of the Knicks, the Knicks in 2018 were actually a good team.
I mean, yeah, I guess,
that
doesn't work for American sports.
The Bulls are still like a, you know, it was basically stolen from them.
I guess the question is, did they show the weakness of the Ancient regimes so much that they all had to start rapidly adapting? And I guess also, what's a progressive characteristic of the German revolutions? I was reading about what Marx thought about various wars in the 19th centuries, and funnily enough, he would always back Austria, despite Austria being arch reactionaries. Do you know why he always backed Austria?
Was it like a familial commitment?
He hated Napoleon III so fucking much that any way that anything could be against Napoleon III, he always would back the other team.
And you know what? I gotta respect that level of hating.
So yeah, I don't know. This one could go really low for me. I could be argued into like, and I guess it's definitely a failing grade, right? What are you saying, Kuba?
Yeah, I am not keen on the revolutions of 1848 because they just sputtered out, right? There wasn't there was a cultural fervent there, but that's like saying that Ralph Nader crossed the 5% magic line in the popular vote. Now, like E, you get an E because you weren't forgotten, but that's the only thing that's keeping you from being further down.
Yeah, I think you're right. E.
Yeah.
Unless,
it's got to be an F.
Oh, there isn't an E. There's just F. But then, okay, wait. I can just
F is fine. F is fine. Let's not quibble.
Yeah, I don't think we need to put
Make
it
an E.
in worst
Make
in
it
the
an E.
world.
There we go.
Yeah, I can just rewrite these. I forgot. I forgot that the F on my keyboard doesn't work when I've got my keyboard unplugged. On to next.
Mexico, the Confederacy.
Yeah, because which Mexican Civil War does it? Yeah, I think it means the revolution against their lovely
Maximilian.
Yeah, but I think we're just going to go straight to the Paris Commune because I actually want to get to the 20th century today. So for me, Paris Commune, like turbo F, like giga F, like significantly. I'd put it like in below 1848 by a lot. Like obviously, I like the ideas embodied in it, but I think on its own terms, it's a total failure. You can't then point to any Western socialist republic and be like, well, actually, they are the inheritors of the Paris Commune. The only attempt to LARP is the Paris Commune was May 68 events in Paris.
I was going to say that its lasting legacy is another thing that fell flat on its face.
Yeah.
I disagree because Disco Elysium exists.
Okay, hold on. There you go. Number one.
So all I'm arguing is that it goes in the E bucket because it was not forgotten. Some of these, right, because you're skipping back and forth. Like when I saw the giant block of flags, I was thinking that my rubric became, okay, there's going to be a lot of marginal and fail cases.
Yeah.
But and some of them, a lot of them, like the Belgian Revolution, that got what it wanted.
Yeah.
But some of these not only failed, but we need to Wikipedia in real time just to figure out what the flag means. That to me is a proper F. To Paris Commune, we don't even need to explain it that much.
Yeah,
that's an E.
Oh yeah, we haven't explained it at all, right? We just expect our listeners to know what it is.
Yes. It's Disco Elysium.
Okay, let's put it as the bottom of E. It's funny, like I actually know what the Ragamuffin War is. I'm just not gonna torture you by talking about it. I would then go on to the Meiji Restoration, which Kuba, speak on it. It's your thing.
Oh yeah, the Meiji Restoration. It's challenging because there's two issues with it. One is during the course of the revolution, the revolutionaries themselves moved the goalposts. So I think that it feels like you grade them based on the final criteria, but that puts an asterisk next to the score. And then, arguably, it culminates by getting nuked and having the barbarians that you were trying to expel write your constitution and treat your emperor as a house pet.
That was
So
85 years later. And
exactly.
then a hypothetical example of the Boer Revolution.
Yeah.
You're saying B, right? So I would give it an A.
Yeah. I frankly would put it at an S because they were
really
fucking shit up, right? They went from next on the plate to be colonized to, oh no, sir, I am the one who colonizes. Me? You hear about somebody getting shot and you think it's me?
Damn. I wish we could have like all you guys in on like people. I wish you guys had the ability to put comments on screen. I have too much to manage. Please, everyone, donate to Jason so you can upgrade our tier on StreamYard. Do you, Quinn? Have you developed thoughts on the measure restorations as we discussed last week?
It seems like a good call. It seems like it on its own terms it was a success.
Ooh, Haitian Revolution, Quinn. What are you saying?
Oh, I mean, like independence was achieved, kind of, but like in terms of what counts as like a finished, like I'm trying to figure out like what can be best stated as like the goals by the end of it.
Yeah.
Which was certainly like, I mean, I'm gonna say independence and an end to slavery. And on those terms, like B or C, because it ended kind of having some independence, but also like split in half with like a kind of low level civil war that would extend on for years, and then not technical slavery, but definitely different kinds of forced labor regimes, which
I mean, when did the Dominican side become independent? Like 1850? Like it was quite like a couple of generations at least after. Yes, we are doing. This is Revolution
1844.
This is Revolution Idle. So yeah, that's like 60 years after Revolution. So, Kuba, what are your thoughts?
Haiti. D or D, because D, making Polish people anything is an achievement. They got independence. There is a Haitian state. That's true. The French never came back, not to stay. But the American neo-colonial phase, the indemnity, that Haiti to this day hasn't achieved that vision that first generation of revolutionaries intended. So I would put it as a tragic D, actually.
I'll compromise on a C and put it by the Spanish American revolutions, which I think is actually, in some sense, can be compared to.
Sure.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Russian Revolution of 1905. My inclination is this gets a failing grade, as it's more of a setup revolution. Obviously, it led to there being a Duma, which probably was important for February 1917. But otherwise, like it was kind of like, it wasn't that before that the Russian regime was not engaged in reforms. They were engaged in reforms. They were probably progressing on that sort of path.
Philippine reforms.
Yeah, so I don't know if it like actually set Russia on a new course. But at the same time, it was not totally defeated. So I wouldn't want to give it an F or anything like this.
I mean, right? Like the main goals were like compromise with the Tsar, get them to give up some power and establish the Duma, which were all like the Duma itself, maybe not that successful. I don't think it really placated a lot of the unhappy officer corps, but like
I think it was closed most of the time between 1905 and 1917.
yeah, but like it was established, and it seemed like it had the Tsar like in a kind of conciliatory um mindset, at least like a willing to make compromises for a few years.
Mhm.
I think it's not fair to put it in D or E. I think it's up in the C or B tier.
Okay. Could be what you think.
Also, I don't think it's fair to like, I don't know, maybe it is. What's the tail on these that we're giving them? Like how many years after like some level of like conclusion to the revolution are we counting their like ongoing success or failure?
Well, I guess for me it's kind of like a square cube law or whatever.
Okay.
That you can think about its achievements 300 years later, but their gravitational pull is weaker.
Yeah.
So my thinking, and I realize that I may be shaping up to be the Simon Cowell, whoever the bitchy one is on the Idol shows, because I'm inclined to give it a D. It's like you got your Duma and you managed to do shit with it, right?
D for Duma.
D for Duma. So maybe it gets one of those Russian Ds that look cool in the typeface, but yeah, D. Or you could chalk it up to inherent Polish Russophobia, but either way, it's not like our glorious Kościuszko revolution.
I'm going to put it in D just because there isn't anything in D yet, so it can hang out and be unique and cool by itself. But then maybe if D gets filled up, it might get moved up to like a weak C. Young Turk Revolution. I think I don't want to cover that. I want to cover that once we're a bit later on and do all of the Turkish with the Turkish War of Independence and so on. So 1905 Mexican Revolution is for me like a very, very cool part of history, but not the most terribly successful one. Or maybe it is. I guess it depends again, like because it did lead to the PIR being in charge for the next century. But what did they make of it? Like, I don't think it actually destroyed the plantation system. Maybe it did. I'm not actually that strongly aware. Does anyone know anything more about the Mexican Revolution than me?
Is that the one which has the Cristeros?
It's original Zapatista Revolution, Zapata Revolution. Oh yeah, they did do anti-clericalism, so actually S.
Yeah, like I think that the break with the church was significant. I'm inclined to put them at a C.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was going to have it within the success categories. I wasn't saying less than a C. For sure. Quinn? Oh, Quinn, you muted.
It gave us that Warren Zevon song. And I'm just in my head hearing, Woodrow Wilson's Guns, and I think I got to give it a B just for that.
Okay, I'll move it to the top of C.
Wait, I think.
What were you saying?
I think that there should be non-tier related bonus points for giving us good songs.
Okay, I'll open up a second tier list.
Okay, sure.
I was thinking about doing a system where we had multiple tier lists going on at once, and I was like, no, that's fucking stupid.
Like a tier tesseract where it goes off in multiple dimensions.
Like a 3D tier list.
Yeah, exactly.
The first Chinese Revolution, the overthrow of the the emperor. This one I would not give a very high rating to because it did not lead to a stable national government for the next 30 years. So in some sense it succeeded, but only in like negative sense. Like it got rid of the regime it was meant to get rid of, but then by failing to, do the other half, it can only get at most half points. You're like, when you're marking an exam or whatever, and they just answered the wrong question, and no matter how good the essay is, if they haven't actually done the thing, you can only give them so high of a grade.
But if your main goal is like, we need to take down the emperor, and we're like, whatever comes next is not the more important part.
I know, but I when I say this, I generally don't know, but I don't imagine that's what people were thinking, right? I imagine they all just had their plans, but they didn't come off. I don't.
Yeah. I don't know this in detail, but from my vague recollections, it was much more of an anti like emperor revolution than a pro, democracy or liberalism or anything really.
And I think that the outcome was, this is an interesting problem, right? Because you're asking to rate what the in terms of their own rationale, right? Like in terms of their own values and own purposes, own goals, what would be the grade? And it ended up with state failure, more or less, fragmentation. It became part of rather than the conclusion to the century of humiliation. So C or D, right? Like, because the emperor is gone. It certainly begins the process of Chinese modernization, but it doesn't have, it doesn't even establish the forces that are ultimately going to bring that about.
Guys, many of the warlords wanted a warlord warring state. This means the revolution succeeded as S tier.
There is that argument to be made, right? I could be persuaded.
But surely they all wanted to be emperor. They didn't actually want to just be a warlord.
This is the problem with trying to, get inside like what counts as on their own terms.
Yeah.
This one should be easy for that, right? Because the Irish just wanted independence.
Yeah.
But they didn't fully get it.
They did not. So it's a B.
Yeah. So the Irish Revolution, I would say, failed in two major ways. The first, it kind of eventually corrected, where there was an Irish Civil War. There was between the treaty and anti-treaty forces, because obviously it only got 26 of the 32 republics, and it was still part of the British monarchy, and there were British naval bases installed on its terrain and so forth. So it failed on that basis, but all of these were eventually corrected. And the anti-treaty forces actually ruled the country and made it like a horrible, shitty Catholic shithole. But I would say the way it more clearly failed for any progressive parts of the Irish Revolution was that it was a British colony. It was a British economic colony in the more modern imperialistic sense, up until the UK and the Irish Republic joined the European Community in 1974, at which point it stopped being a British colony, but then obviously did not then gain national independence in any real way. Maybe
it got better EU citizenship.
Yeah, and now it was I think Ireland had like a 10% GDP drop or something last year, but it didn't matter. It was just basically like accounting bullshit, because Amazon stopped headquartering in the country, but it didn't actually change anything. So the economy that they have now people like genuinely think they're like an incredibly rich country, but it is like a wealth of accounting tricks never seen before. Though obviously they are much better off than they ever have been before, apart from maybe in the early 2000s. So for me, the Irish Revolution, I guess I can give it lower than a C because ultimately it did succeed, but I think it's a thing of like, okay, you got the passing grade, but that's about it.
I see so the Irish are like your Russians or something.
No, my problem was that they failed to get independence from us. This is always my problem with fucking the other British nations. like the Scottish are like, oh, we were colonized. You would actually Scotland. You beat us like every time, or eventually. Scotland.
No,
won its independence like 18 times, and eventually voluntarily joined the Union. Much more than Ireland, they actually had 800 years of resistance, but then Scotland treats itself as a benighted victim instead of like a victorious country. But anyway, that's me whining about Scotland. I could whine about Scotland.
There's a fantastic quote, I think it's from Dune, that one of the factions, I think maybe the Imperial House had run out of options and had failed. All of their weapons had failed. So they were left with only one, treachery. And the reality is that your English asses got reverse acquired by the House of Stuart, right? You had Scottish kings ruling Great Britain.
Yeah.
And then you pull that presto changeo English Revolution bullshit to get you didn't even get an Anglo in there. It was a bunch of Germans for a while. Then like a Dutch. Then back to Germans.
Yeah, but we won in the end just through money. the most British victory of all. Quinn, your thoughts on the positioning of the Irish Revolution? Do you want to go higher than a C?
I think I might be inclined to give it like a B minus, but it loses 6 points, which puts it in C territory.
Yeah, there's also a problem here that C is really filling up. But I will put it in C for now.
Hey, is that our problem or is that the problem of the revolutions? Let's do an African one next because I'm sick of the shade that the chat is throwing.
Which, I mean, it's Algeria. We're going chronologically. I know Reclaimed Darkseid is like, do the People's Republic of China. It's like, yeah, when we get to the 1940s, we will. I'm going to give it a really high grade, but, you know, everything's going chronologically. So, yes, I think up next, February Revolution in Russia. This is a fun one because it is like, yep, they got rid of the monarchy. They established a republic. It lasted for 6 months. They were dependent on the Bolsheviks like very early on and basically signed their own death warrant by arming the Bolsheviks. But, you know, it did the thing, I guess. And also, like, in some sense, it did the thing. If we can do this, if like with the Chinese Revolution, the first Chinese Revolution, if we can say like, oh, it fucked up because it was a warlord period. The February Revolution did not lead to a warlord period. The Bolsheviks just won.
Yeah, exactly. That's an F, right?
Yeah, I guess the question is to what degree, obviously on a Marxist basis, the 1905 February Revolution is almost like something you hear like 3,000 years after it, where like after the Soviets have taken over the world, and they have to explain to like 100 generation on people like, wait, but did Russia not have a bourgeois revolution first? Is that not what it says in Marx? So they just make up a bourgeois revolution, which happened like 6 months before the proletarian revolution, to like technically get them over the line. So I guess the question is, if it's, yeah, okay, it could be an F, or if it's seen as continuous with the 1917 revolution of November, maybe it's a higher grade than F. Quinn, what are you thinking?
I think that
do we have a separate
treating these as two separate things? We should be linking them.
Like, do we have a separate like entry for the the real show, not the pregame.
The October Revolution,
Yeah. Oh no, yeah. So, sorry to be clear. I guess maybe
not the
yeah.
lame
But it-
ass made
Yeah,
for
it's
Marvel
right.
people.
It's right here. It's going to be judged next. Okay.
Yeah,
let's
I
just
think
put-
D tier, right?
what's the other thing we had in D? Oh yeah, the other Russian Revolution. So yeah, let's put it in there with 1905. That makes sense. October Russian Revolution. So, as with all successful proletarian revolutions we're going to cover today, there's an interesting question here because they all obviously failed to achieve communism, or even within Lenin's definition, they were still all miles off socialism. But on the other hand, the 1917 October Revolution is obviously enormously successful if you take it, in terms of like achieving a Soviet-style state, which obviously they couldn't preempt. But it won, and it won all its wars, and it just kept winning except against the Polish. But then it had to get them stabbed in the back 15 years later on. Didn't really have any problems winning. Its problems were actually doing communism is really, really hard, and especially really hard to do. The other way you could say it failed was it was meant to be. It was viewed by Lenin and others as like a backup revolution. It's like, okay, this is like the secure backyard. Yeah, this is the secure backyard of the German Revolution. And then the Germans, they didn't do it. And then after that, it was like many long decades of being like, okay, what the fuck do we do then? So I have no idea where to put the Russian Revolution of October. I'm very romantic about it. It succeeded definitively in many different ways and failed definitively in many different ways. So especially if we're taking it on its own basis, I mean, I think you could make an argument probably for every spot on the list.
So I feel like this is like in total, they got a stable state out of it. They won all of the military conflicts, or most of them. They didn't necessarily achieve all of the political goals that they wanted to, but those were like much more aspirational. I think that puts us in the A or B territory.
I would be much more aggressive than that. I would say that, okay, did we get communism? We didn't get communism, so it's not an S. However, top of even ahead of the Meiji as an A, because you established the dictatorship of the proletariat and the uncontested domination of the Communist Party of the USSR. You managed to hold on to the vast majority of the territory of the Russian Empire. You overcame interventions by every single bourgeois country of the age. You went on to create an economic and developmental model that influenced the vast majority of the population of the planet and shook the capitalist system to its core. There were all kinds of triumphs that can't be dismissed, right? And these were also elemental to the communist vision. There were incredible costs, yes, but revolutions are costly. And the one failure, right, the prize that remained out of reach was actually getting to communism, which, that's why you're not an S. But everything else is pass in terms of the gates that I'm looking at. Do you like that reclaimed shine?
Kuba, you've convinced me. Okay, so Turkish War of Independence, basically like the Turkish Revolutionary period.
Atatürk, right?
From the Young Turks to Ataturk. For me, this is a really high grade.
Yeah, that unproblematic S, actually.
Yeah, I mean the secular state had lasted basically until Erdogan started really taking it apart.
Until this asshole, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty long tail on a revolutionary goal.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it killed lots of my my buddy nationalities. In the Armenians, it wasn't good for Syriacs and so on and so forth. But of course, the Turkish Revolution made no promise to these groups, and in fact did quite the opposite. And to the degree to which Islamism snuck back in, it wasn't until like 80 years later. And obviously, there was never any question of returning to a caliphate monarchy, unless you count ISIS. So yeah, I think it maybe is just NAS.
Yeah, I mean it sucks. It's like that tweet where it's like, no, you don't have to give it to him. But I think in the criteria we've set for ourselves, we do kind of have to give it to them.
Yeah,
on their own terms.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
this is the we give it to them day. This is the topic of the hour. Loaded the Blair Mountain Revolt. Should I just put like all these suck ass bullshit leftist shit? Just like
they all stay in worst of the worst. Yeah, they're all.
Yeah, no, Mr. Mac. No, that was really gonna happen.
Exactly, that's the bathysphere.
The
right?
worst. Kronstadt.
Oh.
That's like it's like Paris Commune. Like if your revolution doesn't leave a single city, doesn't even have goals really beyond the city, and falls on its face after a few months, like you can't stop. You can't play with the big boys.
Yeah, I mean, at least the Paris Commune gave us Disco Elysium, right? What did Nestor Manco give us?
I think the only thing that's on here that not on here that I would like to cover is Chiang Kai-shek's like Northern Expedition and that kind of stuff. Before that, we can do the March on Rome, the only real fascist revolution which happened. I think it gets a kind of high grade. It's always a bit of a question that's unclear with fascists, especially the Italian fascists. It's like, what the fuck was the plan anyway? Like, what were you actually trying to achieve? Like, where were we going with this?
When the goal is like kind of incoherent, other than like we want to be in charge, and you get in charge.
Okay,
I think you gotta count that as a win.
I see. It's definitely a win. The question is, where does it fall? And I see three promises being made by fascists in general and Mussolini in particular. One is we're going to be a modern country.
Yeah.
We're not going to be economically backwards anymore. We're not going to be a church slave state anymore. Two, we're going to be culturally dynamic and modern oriented. We're not going to be traditionalists, right? We're not just going to be rich, but we're also going to be modern facing. And three, we're going to recreate the Roman Empire. And it's like AAF, you know? So B, I guess.
Yeah, and wait, and I guess it does get more points than the Nazis. We're not going to do the Nazis, but it does get more points than the Nazis because it did last 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. And to their credit, I need to be careful how I phrase things. Well, one, they give us Gramsci.
Yeah.
Two, unlike the Third Reich, their cultural contribution, and I'm thinking especially in terms of architecture, because I spent a little time in northern Italy, and it's similar to the Risorgimento, right? Like I gave that a high score as well, because there's a bunch of stuff that they left behind which is like cool and durable and inspiring. And have you seen the Square Colosseum? It's really dope, you know? Like the Mussolini stuff is cool. The their contribution to graphic design, to visual arts, right? Literature. This is what I'm saying, right? On the second point, right? We're going to economically modernize, but we're also going to be culturally modernist and dynamic. That is a serious A. Yeah. So
Yep.
I give them a B because the geopolitical stuff, A, totally half-baked, right? My biggest issue is the malpractice aspect of it, right? Like, come on. Ethiopia, come on. Just don't go into Ethiopia, right? That's all you needed to do, not do Ethiopia, right?
I'll push
Libya,
back a little
yeah,
bit.
but Ethiopia, come on.
I'll push back a little bit on the kind of design stuff. That a lot of that was like an appropriation of like existing art movements, and how that was received like within the actual people making the art was pretty mixed. Some of them were like on board with fascism, and many of them were vehemently against.
What you say is absolutely correct. However, for me, I don't imagine that the state itself, in most cases, is going to be the source of the dynamism. The question is, do they co-opt and encourage what is already taking place, or do they suppress it? And say what you will about the fascists, I think that they co-opted and encouraged more than they suppressed.
Sure.
If it lasted another 20 years, it might have gone stagnant, but it was a shot in the arm. But I hear you. I don't want to give the impression to anybody that Mussolini or fascism deserves all of the credit for this cultural effervescence, but they didn't squander the moment, which Franco shat all over the achievements, the cultural achievements of the Republican period, even though they were really great, right? Which I think puts the Italian fascists in a slightly better, it's a better category. That's all I'm saying.
That's fine.
Because-
This was also I was going to pitch. There's a book that came out like April or May of this year called Furnishing Fascism, which goes into some of the history about like Italian design and how it was partially embraced but partially pushed back against the fascist party. It was an interesting read.
I realize they don't actually have the fucking the Chinese Revolution on this list, so I'm gonna have to add it as we go. Were you guys agreeing on?
Wait, what? Is it one of the ones that you dumped to the loser tier?
No, like it should be around like here before decolonization. But yeah, that's not there. It's Cuba, Vietnam. It's just not here, which is incredible. It's like,
I mean, PRC's an S.
yeah. Whoa, fuck, what's going on? Okay, choose file.
PRC's an S, and I refuse to allow it.
All files. Does this work? Okay, yeah, it did. We got a very shitty China flag on. Let's go.
Good enough.
Why am I now at like a different aspect ratio? You can tell we're professionals. There we go. Okay, it's fixed. B for the Italian fascists.
I have to say,
you have to say what? You didn't say it.
made me feel really good about my own incompetence. I thought I was getting old, but no, it's just incompetence.
I mean, the thing is, if I didn't have to talk to you guys, and if I had my keyboard plugged in, it would be a lot better. But the fact that I'm using a trackpad and also having to manage the show otherwise doesn't inhibit me. Let's go with the favorites of many an anarchist, so we can give it an F. The various progressive movements that existed in Spain from 1936 to 1939. Because of course, some people get it confused. The Nazis started this. The fascists started the civil war in Spain. It was not the progressive elements. It was not the revolutionaries. It was not the communists. It was not the anarchists. But then during the process, in various places, they engaged in communalization and blah blah blah. And the CNT were fucking based as fuck, but they lost. They did some genuine, real, deep communalization in Spain. I think in Aragon was a place there, like key location, and like it was really peak communalization. But it only lasted a couple of years and then was destroyed. So F for me.
Yeah, I mean, we're not judging them on how much we like them. We're judging them on their success on their own terms, and nothing but failure.
You are correct. This is what we are judging on them. We are giving the moral judgment that Franco is better. Well, we can see here that Lenin was better than the Italian fascists, but only by a little bit, and they were not nearly as good as the Turkish genocidaries.
But if you're just coming in now, what we're doing is we're ranking revolutions based on their success, kind of on their own terms.
Yeah, which is why you can see this insane schizo list.
Yeah.
And I want to reiterate, Chinese Revolution, S. Arguably,
I think we might have to put it over French at number 1.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I've already got my argument prepared, but I do think the French Revolution wins. But yeah, it's the only plausible candidate to take it out.
Sorry, Turk.
Let's quickly put the Spanish. It's the best of this various leftoid fail tier.
No,
I think that the leftoid tier are like come on, those aren't real.
Yeah.
We got to put it up in the E, where that's they actually happened. There was a
maybe even ahead of the Commune.
Yeah, actually, no, you're right.
Yeah.
It's better than the Paris Commune. I'd forgotten I put the Paris Commune there. Not going to cover the Nazis. I just don't want to talk about it for this kind of question. Yeah. When I refreshed the page, the fucking Chinese one went away, so I'm going to put it back in.
It'd be really funny if it broke again in the same way.
No, it didn't. Thank God for that.
All right, there we go.
Do we want to cover anything else before we do China? Because we'll do Cuba and Vietnam afterwards.
Yeah.
And then any spare stuff. Oh, Cuba's going to really upset chat when he's talking about 1989.
Should we put? I know decolonization as like a larger thing.
Yeah, but I can do decolonization, but it's actually the Algerian Revolution or the Egyptian Revolution. But anyway, the Chinese Revolution goes before that, so let's do China first. We're going to have to do this 8 times before it gets to the top. So, the Chinese Communist Revolution. My argument for it not upstaging the French Revolution is if we go on in terms of like material improvement for a country, restoring China to its natural position as the greatest power in the world, which it held for most of history, then the Chinese Revolution is like the #1 revolution. But that's not what they were planning. The plan of the Chinese communists in the 1940s was not to make China the world's leading capitalist power in the 21st century. That was very definitely
transitional socialist state. Transitional socialist state.
There was also a very clear, at the time, a very clear internationalist element in the Chinese Revolution, and they did, in fact, make sure it happened in Korea. Though, of course, the Korean Revolution didn't end very well. Though things are improving now, apparently. But yeah, the Korean Revolution didn't end particularly well either. And the main contribution to China internationally has been negative. It split with the Soviet Union, invaded Vietnam, which luckily it lost. But I think invading Vietnam to defend the Cambodian Revolution. Where's the Cambodian Revolution on here, guys? Yeah, I think invading Vietnam to defend
Khmer
invade
Rouge.
Vietnam to try and defend the Cambodian Revolution is really bad. And for those reasons, I would put it an S as opposed to number 1.
I think that those are actions of the state that was set up by the revolution and not the revolution itself.
I also think that you're actually doing the reverse Joe and Lai, where we're at the point, like in most of these revolutions, the maximalist goals of the early phase get progressively less and less attainable as the system moves forward. In the case of the PRC, arguably only in the case of the PRC, those goals are becoming more and more feasible as the revolution and the state mature in tandem. So I think that is a significant point in favor of the PRC.
As number
I hope you're
1.
listening, father-in-law.
Because obviously, people are getting mad at me in chat. But I'm not saying, all I'm saying is it better than the French Revolution? I'm actually no dispute over it being an S. Or is it going to be the literally number 1 revolution on here?
I think that the French Revolution suffers a little bit from Citizen Kane syndrome.
Mm-hmm. Also,
yeah, and I guess it did lose to a counter-revolution within a generation.
Like, that's what I was going to say, is that there's no, like, Chiang Kai-shek didn't come back like Napoleon and, like, steamroll in and, like, set up a new government and then get kicked out and come back and, all of the things that we love from the background of various novels.
Yeah, I guess I lost this one, guys. You're right. The counter-revolution in France means...
It means that, like, as much as we can consider it like a success on its own terms, it was unstable enough that it was, like, dethroned by, within.
Yeah, but the French
soon.
Revolution didn't fail because it was unstable internally.
Mm-hmm.
It failed because it balled too hard and tried to conquer the entire world. Like, the French Revolution was like would have been like Trotsky's USSR. They were doing like permanent revolution across the globe. But yeah, I take the point. Sad, sad times. But, that's life. You're losing to the Chinese, it's never a shameful event.
We all better get used to it.
Why don't we do the Egyptian Revolution of 1952, but using the model of the Egyptian Revolution of 1919? So this I take as kind of the archetypical, vaguely Soviet-aligned, progressive, anti-Islamic third world revolution, which achieved, like a modernist state, which then went on to take a massive number of L's from Israel or whatever relevant regional power we want to do, and eventually fell into into Islamist counter-revolution. It was one of the many attempted failures at the United Arab Republic. So in some ways, of course, it first beat the French and the British. It succeeded initially internally, but then eventually kind of fell to Islamism after having been defeated. So I don't know what you guys think.
I think that it's like a C. How much worse was it than the Greeks? They're still in independent Egypt.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's particularly worse than the Greeks. It's hard for me because, as many people have noted, Nasser is like the guy with the most aura, with the most L's. Guy always had riz, always had personality, always had charisma, always had dreams. And he lost to Israel like 3 or 4 times while not completing his internal revolution. And of course, like, you don't need to defeat Israel to have a successful revolution in Egypt, but he planned to defeat Israel and instead took a set of L's. Quinn, any thoughts on Egypt?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think all of the thoughts that I have that are substantive will be better covered when we're just looking at decolonization largely. So I'm not gonna argue with you.
I wasn't planning to do colonization in general. Like, if I reuse that image, I'll use it for the Algerian Revolution or something.
Okay. Then, so I mean, I think that this does fit into the kind of larger movement of decolonization in the mode of internationally recognized nation states.
Yeah.
Which, like, in the terms of, like, we want our own state, we want internationally respected borders and boundaries, and to be recognized at the UN. A lot of that has been, like, on those terms, have been very, very, very successful, but, like, the terms themselves have kind of been a failure. That, like, getting those things doesn't actually get you what you wanted, which is, like, national liberation and autonomy. But when the terms are like, we want our own independent state that's on an equal footing with most of the rest of the states, cool, you got it. It's still all under capital. The World Bank still is going to fuck you over. So I think, I don't know, C tier.
I was going to say B, but you two both said C.
I'm not going to argue. If you want to put it in B, I don't think it's necessarily wrong.
What do you think, Kuba?
No worse than the Greeks.
Okay. Let's put them.
I mean, I don't want people to get the impression that I'm lumping all of the Mediterraneans in one C basket. And maybe
these things were all exactly
that's why I gave the fascist Italy a B. But C is what I say.
What's a fantastic looking list. Next up, Cuba, which I think is a good, interesting example in terms of revolutions within small nations. Where again, it has a problem of they didn't succeed in communism, but I think in the Cuban case, that can be much more attributed to the environment of other socialist countries and what they were doing, rather than Cuba itself.
They also, communism was not the initial goal.
Yeah, it was like a partial kind of progressive bourgeois revolution, which is eventually taken over by Castro, and then not even then fully placed within the Soviet bloc, but then blah blah blah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Castro himself, like, was kind of, he came to communism after, like, a while. He didn't begin there, and even not as a revolutionary leader. But in terms of let's kick out the dictator, take over the country, and then, like, work to export the revolution in our own way, whether it's through, like, medical missions or military campaigns in Africa.
I mean, I think
it's an unbridled success.
It's big failure as, like, the model of revolution we're going after is a failure to ever properly industrialize. But again, like, did Cuba really ever have the industrial, like, conditions for that ever to become a thing? Like, that would have never happened under a bourgeois government. Like, I don't see Cuba ever industrializing in a significant way under a bourgeois government. So I don't know. For me, like, I would be content with S or A or B.
I mean, yeah, I put it on par with the success of the Turks.
Yeah.
You guys have talked me up. I was going to be like, okay, this is a tragic B situation because the American embargo choked them, and I still have the ghost of Haiti on my shoulder. But unlike Haiti, there was no indemnity. There was no return, no constant American occupation. The Cubans even had some opportunities to go on offense, Che in Latin America, and the Cuban contribution to the African liberation struggles, especially around South Africa. And this is a tiny ass country right next to a hostile superpower that's had its boot on its neck the entire time. So yeah, A or S. Put them up there with the Turks, I guess. Yeah. You've convinced. Plus, he gave the world Justin Trudeau, which is like another away game victory for.
That is a victory for them, not a.
Look,
not a, oh no, we've created a monster.
Personally, understanding how Canada functions, I think that Trudeau did fine. Right, he was a solid gentleman's B+ Canadian Prime Minister. He managed not to fuck up a bunch of important things, and yeah, sure, things deteriorated in the way that they're deteriorating all across the West. But he at least, if he was not putting out the fire, he was not stoking it either.
So moving now to Vietnam, and Vietnam is the third revolution that I would at least put in contention for number one. Again, positing it as a small to medium country sized revolution, and one which was explicitly from the start like a mixed bourgeois socialist revolution, in the sense that Ho Chi Minh was very aware of kind of wanting to collaborate with national forces that were not necessarily socialist in achieving Vietnamese independence. Vietnam then went on like a crazy run, beat the French, beat the Americans, and beat the Chinese, all while overthrowing the auto-genocidal dictatorship in Cambodia. Just like W's all around, really, is now progressing to be a real industrialized country. Again, apart from the communism quibble, I don't think there's really a basis where Vietnam failed, apart from the fact that it took them a while to get there, but they were going up against like a world tier opposition. So
and they saved Cambodia in the meantime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Vietnam S tier. Yeah, concur. It's tricky with the French and the Chinese revolutions. You have this universal ambition, and I don't know if that should factor into the grading. Probably not. That's probably a projection. They're raising their own bar. Do they deserve points for that? No. And China and France perform remarkably well, even with those grandiose metrics. The Vietnamese never flew that close to the sun. And basically, they hit every marker that they put down. They did it without getting all North Korean and losing their souls, or destroying their heritage irreplaceably. I mean, what was left after the French and American? Well, the Americans. The French actually, say what you will, there are abominable cases, but they're less vandal then.
I mean, the important thing was that the war against the French was mostly fought in the rural areas. And was defeated rurally, while the Americans fought in the cities and bombed the cities and so on, which isn't great.
That's here. Yeah.
So I think there's a top four here.
Yeah.
There's a top four here of China, Vietnam, America, France. Where would you put it within that top four?
I would put it with between the Americans and the Turks. Maybe even ahead of the Americans, actually. Maybe even ahead of the Americans.
I was going to say, on one side of the Americans. I don't think it's above the French, but like...
Yeah, my argument would be for third, for above America, below French.
No, either side I'm good with. I'm thinking like about like the kind of lofty goals of some of the revolutions.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that you get credit for setting the bar high, but that is offset by the credit you get for being realistic in your goals.
Yeah, exactly. I think
like being realistic and being practical, I think gives you equal points.
It's been a while since I read Ho Chi Minh. Did actually read Ho Chi Minh. Funny enough, his collected writings had an introduction by Zizek, of all people.
I think I also remember reading that and be like, huh, that's all right, cool. But it's like a versatile collection or something.
I think Uncle Ho was much more like his orientation for Vietnam was not an internationalist orientation. Like, not in the sense it was against it, but not in the sense that it was like, it was not filled with this internationalist aim of like, oh, we're going to win the revolution in Vietnam and then we're going to go into Cambodia and we're going to do the domino effect ourselves or whatever. So I think there's, on that basis, no points off for failing to like internationalize the revolution, because that wasn't really its aim.
Well said, MT. Note, I did that with my left hand.
So, which revolutions that have not been covered do you guys want to cover at this point? Because I would say these are the ones I was broadly planning to do.
I would like to do decolonization, and specifically, I'm thinking Angola and Southern Africa. That interests me more than West Africa.
Yeah, we can have that standing in for Angola.
And then these are bourgeois revolutions. So 1989, I feel like my last few ratings have built up some goodwill with the chat that I'm eager to squander.
Yeah, we can do 1989, and we can do Angola standing in for decolonization. Quinn, do you have any other requests? Obviously, we can do them one by one, so you've got plenty of time to think if you don't immediately.
Yeah, I don't think so. At least nothing on here.
Just lost it.
I'm trying to think if there's any like good like revolutionary attempts that were missing.
So my thoughts.
And let's have the chat. If they can collectively decide on one as a provisional Politburo, then we'll do that one too.
Yes. If you have something in chat that you want to cover and you can get those people to agree with you in the next 10 minutes, then we will also do that one. My thoughts on Angola, it can't be given a failing grade, but I would put it on the lowest part of C. Because for me, it really, all these decolonial revolutions they were all like not aiming to become, presumably, like purely periphery, third world, imperialized states. They were aiming for different things. Sometimes they were aiming for actual socialism, for actual communism. Other times they were aiming for like national developmentalist, industrialized economies, whatever. But in the case of Angola, in the case of most of these states, this did not succeed. And obviously that don't necessarily blame them in the sense of they were struggling, especially in the case of Angola, with the South African counter-revolutionary reactionary state. But and of course the Portuguese state, which held on for far longer than the rest of the European countries. But even ignoring that, I just can't give it anything on my side higher than a C, because in the end it ended up as a imperialized third world country which just exports oil.
I see the economic underperformance as offset significantly by Angola's role in pushing decolonization further south, liberating Namibia, and applying crucial pressure on apartheid South Africa. So I give it an A.
Okay. That might be our biggest gap yet.
I'm kind of with Kuba on this one, that like I think that the kind of like I said before, the goal was an independently recognized nation state, as was like most of the other like decolonizing countries. And what that functionally meant, like as a result of how the world worked and continues to work, is that kind of makes you a peripherized third world punching bag or ball for the world powers to kick around. But that's
okay,
like,
but you like, was it better than the Bolerian revolutions in the Spanish Americas? Because remember, we've got those at sea, and I don't see how it's better than those.
yeah, I guess I should have made this argument. I've if I really wanted to make this argument stick, I should have. I've kind of already conceded a little bit
Actually,
by letting those sit down there.
No. I actually think that Stefan, you made the argument in our favor, and this is entirely contingent, right? This isn't something that necessarily the Angolan revolutionaries deserve credit for, but the fact that they are an oil exporter makes them less, gives them more economic autonomy than the peripheral states of South America.
You did pick a good example there, because if you'd picked like the Congo, I would have been like arguing for F.
Yeah. And you would be right? I'd be right there with you. But that's why I wanted to dial in on Angola, because I think that the southern tier,
that's the question, is
Mozambique,
Angola,
to a certain extent.
Is like Angola better than Venezuela?
Yes.
Really?
I mean, Maduro's in a prison in Manhattan.
Yeah, but like the Western countries since 1989 have had no cause to throw an Angolan president in prison.
I mean, except for all of the bullshit causes that they have to assassinate, depose, etc., etc. Angola, once it's stabilized, the government hasn't even been prone to foreign. I know. I picked like a hard case, which also isn't that glamorous, right? But I'm sticking to it. Angola got A for Angola.
You want to put it in A?
I want to put it in A. Yeah.
Jesus, this is the biggest gap of the show so far. It's pretty interesting, because what do any of us know about Angola?
I think I'm going to put it in B, at least in my book. That like on its own terms, for its specific goals of like, a revolution to establish an independent state, I think it's a success. Now, how successful, what that actually means in the long term, what that gets you, it didn't work great. But like on its own terms, its own goals, it got them.
Under protest, and because I find it amusing, I'll put it with the fascist march on Rome.
This is I think the most cursed list I've seen in a while.
It's great. I love it.
I'm hoping
So, yeah,
people
that-
are like hopping in just now and don't have any of the context and just see this list and
yeah, we're like esoteric national development fascists. So yeah, the only suggestion I've seen from chat is to do the Korean Revolution. And that was from Reclaim Daosan. I don't think I've seen anything else, but we still have the revolutions of 1989 to cover. I also really need to get water. So Kuba can speak on that while I get a drunk.
Look, I know this is going to be.
No, I also feel fine to go to the bathroom because I feel fine giving it the high grade that Kuba's going to argue for.
Yeah.
We should put it by the Russian Revolution.
Yeah. No. Let's face it. The 1989 revolutions, that's S tier. You have one continental without actual armies crossing to carry the revolution. But in multiple independent centers, you have linked and ideologically aligned movements to overthrow an entire alliance, an entire political, economic, security ecosystem of states. 2, they bury communism permanently. It never makes a comeback in any single one of the successor states. The closest you get is Lukashenko, and come on, right? Like, say what you will, the man is not a comrade. 3, in many cases, the developmental trajectory for the successor states, I'm talking the Balts, I'm talking Poland, I'm talking the Visegrad 4, I'm talking Slovenia, I'm talking Croatia. That's like what, 80 million people? All massive improvements in material welfare. Not only that, but minimal repression. We're not even talking about forced labor or any of the extreme measures that were required in other contexts. Also, the move towards the West, the geopolitical realignment, largely popular, right? So it might behoove us to separate the Russian 1989 fall of the Soviet Union story from Eastern Europe.
I'm not including the Soviet counter-revolution in this.
In that case, yeah, unproblematic S.
Yeah, it hurts me deep in my ideologue's soul. But like, yeah, no, they won. It worked.
Kuba, would you accept putting it in the highest position in S just because it's funny that it's touching the 1917 October Revolution?
You mean the highest position in A?
A, yeah, sorry. Like to put it here.
With the stipulation, with the understanding that it's only to stick it to the erstwhile repressive elite, then yes, we can do that.
But also, Stefan, we got a super chat a little earlier from Prairie Fire Neb requesting to switch France and CCP. And as much as I disagree with this in our ranking,
okay,
his argument is ironclad.
As a principled position in our show, we should reward bribery.
Wait. I agree, concur. But this just means that the bidding begins at $5.
It's true. If you want to look, if you're a real partisan, if you really believe in the mission of the party, if you think that the Communist Party of China, if you believe in them, if you're a true patriot netizen, so you know what? Send it to me on WeChat. I'll don't even worry about it.
If you want to put a 1 in front of that 5, you can pick what we put at the top.
Yeah, if you want to.
How much did March of Rome to S tier?
Yeah, if you wanted to put 1933 German Revolution, number 1, you can pay for it. I'll do it.
Oh God, yeah.
March of Rome
might
to S
require
tier.
a 1 and a 0, right?
Yeah, I think that's got to be triple digit.
Mm-hmm.
March of Rome, I think double digits. We're talking.
Yeah.
Yes. What the fuck was I going to say? I do think, since when I was last on the Saturday show, on the main show, I do think that Jason's like number 1 flaw with the show is not simping enough for the donations.
Mm.
Because you watch mainstream people, and even when they're rich as fuck, they simp for those guys. But the thing is, because when the thing is on, like, I'll simp for them instead. But they don't want me to simp for them. They want Jason to simp for them. So it's you can't get there. I think the only request, unless I missed one when I was away, that we cover otherwise was the Korean Revolution. Unless Quinn, you had a request.
Oh, let's see. No, we can talk about DPRK.
Can I use any of these as a proxy for DRPK? I can use the Russian Civil War one.
Sure.
Or the Kukue one. The Greek Revolution. Kukue. As if you guys were going to know what the fuck I meant by Kukue. Let's, for a laugh, let's use the Boxer Rebellion. It's red.
Yeah. I think that's hilarious.
Me, the Korean Revolution, as in like the North Korean Revolution, gets a passing grade. Let's start with that, I guess.
Yes, I think also because I think that the DPRK gets bonus points for the extended relevance of tunneling. And I am 100% serious about that.
Well, the
Vietnamese, I mean this kind of as a joke, but also like the what's the full funny title? The True Democratic People's Republic, or the Democratic People's Republic of True Korea. Like, guys, their tunnel boring and like underground facilities are the reason that like they're the reason that Iran has underground facilities, and they're the reason that the tunnels going in and out of Gaza are like well, some of those were built by the Israelis, but a lot of the maintenance and then like extended tunnel boring expertise comes out of DPRK. I think they get extra points for that.
I wonder what the lineage of the Kurdish Rojava tunnels were. If they learnt them, who they learnt them from in Lebanon or wherever else. It's probably
tunnels.
Maybe like third connection to North Korea.
I know that there's some different like there's some much older tunnel networks in through the very volcanic regions of Turkey or whatever. Anatolia. But
obviously Dasein pointed out that it started as like a national revolution which merged into a communist revolution, blah blah blah, which would mean we don't take points off for failing to achieve communism, but we do take a lot of points off then for not getting half the country. And of course, you might make the very reasonable objection of America, etc., etc. But that didn't stop Vietnam, did
it? Snap. Yeah, for me, it's actually a very simple case. Is there still North Korea that is not meaningfully that is a successor state to the revolutionary system created. Whatever you think of that revolutionary system, and the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Is there also a South Korea that is an integral part of their national project that remains out of their hands? Also yes. C. Yeah, can't fail them. Can't give them better than that.
I think there's a strong argument for putting them touching the Irish Revolution.
Yeah, exactly. Bingo.
Great. So that is us done.
Oh, I added an image that I think you should show really quickly. On Vietnam.
Where am I looking? Oh, here.
All right, we can go back. I just needed to throw this up there for a second.
I am gonna just I'm gonna disrespect the $5 and just return to my original rating. I'm going to try and take a screenshot of our incredibly insane list.
Your integrity cannot be bought. It can just be rented for a time.
Yeah. Is that even slightly readable? Maybe.
Oh, yeah, that'll work.
Screenshotted. And yeah, then you can get your money's worth again.
I like how...
Are there any revolutions here that we hate and we should just throw in worst of the worst?
Well, I think that we should throw the American Civil War into E tier because it also was scoreboard L, fuck you, you lost.
Yeah,
but like also with the caveat that like
Jim Crow, yeah,
like in the end, did you lose that much? Like,
yeah, that hurts. That one,
like,
yeah.
Doesn't that suck? Because they lost the war, and then like, we're gonna do reconstruction. It's gonna be good. We're gonna fix all the. No, never mind.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
We're gonna replace. We're gonna replace the system where like you're legally responsible with sharecropping, which.
Yeah.
Not that much of an improvement. Like it's fun to be like, haha, yeah, we won the war, and like, yeah, the Confederacy lost the war, and then they won.
Yeah.
And yet, all of the people who in the end, all of the people who were like really fighting for the Confederacy ended up doing pretty well. You know,
they needed to be shooting people in shifts across the Confederacy.
Yeah, like we fucking burned down New Orleans a third time. Like
New Orleans was smart. Actually, New Orleans is the one Confederate city where it's like they're the Italians of the Confederacy, right?
Yeah, they're like, all right, you know what? Fuck it.
Atlanta, though. Raleigh, Charleston should have got the Phnom Penh treatment, right?
Someone mentioned the Islamic Revolution of Iran, which I'm not going to add, but would be like B, I guess.
It gets to A.
Yeah,
based on the Strait of Hormuz, right?
Yeah.
It was like B until like last year. It was B until February.
It was B until all of like the hypothetical, like, oh, maybe they have this power. It's all like, you know, hypothetical, and then turns out nope. They actually have access to all of those levers.
It's going to put all the shitty failed European revolution, like bourgeois revolutions, in with the shitty failed leftoid revolutions.
Texas Revolution also, I think, on its own terms, pretty successful.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I guess it depends if it ever aims to become independent. But
we want a microstate with slavery so that we can join the U.S. and then they joined the U.S. and got to keep their slaves.
Yeah. But we can. I don't feel the need to spend any more time in those weeds.
Sure.
So do you want to know my amazing plan for views in the future?
Yes.
we just alternate episodes between doing tier lists and doing shows about sex.
No, we need to do tier lists about sex.
I was thinking to do a tier list. I wouldn't actually do this. It'd also be like a 15-minute exercise of doing like rating all the third genders.
Like, are we doing historical, like
down at the demisexual, asexual?
Those are sexualities, not genders. Come on, get it right.
Say, yeah. But, like for me, like a gender, that's like S tier.
A gender is good. I feel like all of the there was like a list of like 72 genders that got like. I think that there was some serious like padding there was some serious padding on those lists. Like by gender, F tier. F tier compared to A gender, it's I like that Kuba's slowly become like more and more just like a dark shadow against the or like how many of those are just non-binary, but we came up with another word for it.
Yeah, I mean they
come on.
all are.
Oh.
Sure.
Oh, I am staying out of this. This is quote Murtaugh from the first Lethal Weapon movie, which y'all too young to remember except as a cultural artifact. I am too old for this shit.
But the actual sex topic I was thinking of was because on Twitter lately, well, I shouldn't say there has been a lot of dating discourse on Twitter. Within the algorithm that has shown to me, and as I reinforce when I like the posts that I see, there's been a lot of dating discourse. And I think an interesting question is, who is in a position to give good dating advice about dating X gender? Because I think this is a suggestion, and I think it's true, is that most women will give you bad advice on dating women. As opposed to women will give you good advice on doing skincare routines and so on and so forth.
You should listen to women, just not about how to date women.
Yeah. And then I guess the question, like, do men give good advice to women on dating men? Maybe, but because it's easier, like...
Sure.
Like, it wasn't not that very hard question in the first place, and also a question which is far less asked.
You should key his car. He deserves it.
Do women give women good advice on dating men? Sometimes. That's probably one like very bimodal. Do men give men good advice on dating women? I think that one's intensely bimodal, but probably quite far to the negative side. I don't know. Do you think that has legs for a show, or do you think would rapidly conclude?
I worry that we basically it turns into doing like game theory squares.
Or just doing like women be like, men be like.
Yeah.
But the thing is, women be like, men be like content is very popular. So why shouldn't we do that?
Have they stopped with the no conversation?
We're talking about we're talking about sex. Dating.
Let's talk about
I preferred when I was just
sex.
defending the 1989 to a chat full of communists, right? Now you're putting me on dangerous territory.
I feel like talking about art has been fun. We could talk about like portrayals of sexuality in art. And like
yeah, I could tell
think there's
more
a lot
stories.
there. More stories about painting sex.
So
no, stay still. Don't move.
For instance, when I was an undergrad freshman year, one of the RAs, there was a huge, right, this was a particularly fraught moment in undergraduate gender relations, because on the one hand, you had like the vagina monologues, radical feminism. On the other hand, Facebook was being invented, right? 2 dorms down. And one of the RAs was a pickup artist. And he offered a freshman seminar about how to pick up women for boys only.
Yeah.
As soon as the administration got wind of this, because he had given it an innocuous name and he had tried to swear everybody to secrecy.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. These are like 18, 19-year-old dudes. That you lost that battle before you even showed up. There was outrage when it was canceled, but it came from the freshman women. And that's all I'm going to say. And if you want to find out more, then you're going to have to tune in next week.
Suggestions. Well, actually, Prairie Fire Neb said, "This revolution is going full BuzzFeed on this. It's not on my basic bingo card." If it was up to me, if I was actually running a show, I would just find whatever the popular thing was of the day and just give my esoteric take on it. But there are people at TIR that have higher values than I have, loftier ideas than I have. Top philosophers would be awesome. With Ben, we did a thing where we ranked philosophers on tier list, but what we did was we didn't rank them based on how good they are, similar to what we did today, but not quite the same. We rank them rather on if someone came up. I think this is also, you could do this with revolutions. If someone came up to you and told you that this was their favorite revolution, what would you think of them? Favorite philosopher in this case. So Nietzsche in that case goes from an S tier philosopher for me down to like D or F tier. Someone's asking about the Lord of the Rings films.
We should do a tier list of fantasy franchises.
Red Droga.
Oh, that could be fun.
Yeah. Red Droga is saying just do more fantasy nerd stuff. Red Droga will loyally be there. We don't know who else will be.
We'll pick up an audience. Just
Dark, shadowy Cuba. But yeah. So yeah, maybe some gender war stuff next week. We love gender, we love war.
we're big fans of both gender and war, and potentially war about gender. Gender is going to war. Identifying as war is your gender.
In the multi-sided gender war of 2035, no one saw the asexuals coming, but everyone was surprised when it was the demisexuals who came out on top. And after that, everybody was a they, them. Nobody was knocking boots anymore.
Yeah, that's something I think will never happen. We're
gonna reform. We're gonna reform the English language and get rid of all gendered pronouns.
I mean, it works for China.
Works for Turkey too.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny when you see Turkish stuff auto-translated because they translate to doing everything as he.
Mm-hmm. It's just because they don't have gendered pronouns.
They don't have pronouns at all. Yeah, well, they don't have gendered pronouns. They just have neuter. I mean,
everyone is a man.
I think no, you'd really struggle with not having pronouns. You'd have to do ridiculous connotations and not have pronouns.
Yeah, I mean that's why all of the like, oh, I don't use pronouns is very silly because it's basically impossible to speak in the English language and not use pronouns.
The Faceless Men or the Bravosi, whatever it was in Game of Thrones, where he says a man ... or a girl ...
Yeah, yeah.
Right? The nouns are gendered, but they are not pronouns.
Yeah.
And presumably, if you just go a person, that you get away from pronouns entirely.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we'll work something out during the week. Goodbye,
right.
everyone. Blah, blah, blah.
Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.
Tell your friends, but not the police.
You guys can look at this incredible tier list as we go out.